Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our discussion of the MCU Phase 4 TV shows and our complete and utter 100% ranking. Not be debated. We'll get into that later. But the MCU Phase 4 is so vast that we got TV shows for the first time.
Right.
And almost all of this came out within a 2-year, 18-month period. So there was a lot of content, and some people complained about that there was just too much content, which is both a fair criticism, and then I'm sorry, I want to watch a Star Wars show, a MCU show, a Doctor Who show, and then give me Severance or Leverage or something.
Yeah, I appreciate that we are now getting some in-universe backstory, possibilities and introductions of quote-unquote smaller characters that instead of having to go back, like we talked about with Scarlet Witch, with Wanda, or not Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, the other one, having to go back 10 years later and fill in her backstory.
Yeah.
Way after the fact. We get to do it up front.
Yeah. So our shows, our number 8 of the 8 shows is Falcon and Winter Soldier. Captain America and Winter Soldier. Captain Falcon and the guy with the metal arm. We have not rewatched this since it came out. And part of the reason we put it at number 8 is backstory. We try our best to not let the outside of the storytelling affect how we view a show. But this was the first show that was directly affected by the pandemic.
Right.
And they took out the plague aspect that they were trying to set out that the Red Hand was trying to set out on the world, because it was just too soon after the world had shut down because of a plague.
Which is fair.
But it became evident when you watched it that stuff got changed and pulled and fixed in ADR, and they did a really good job of doing all that, but it affected our viewing of the show.
Well, they did an okay job.
I think they did the best job they could.
Probably.
Yeah.
But it did affect, there were plot drops. We're going to introduce
This is not Doctor Who.
Right. We're going to introduce this thing, this, plot device, whatever, that never comes up again because it was part of the other plot, right? And just some jumpy, back. You're like, what, now? Why are we here now?
Yeah.
What is going on? All that being said, the story is an important one.
Yes.
Yes. And I think that the acting was great. I want to see more.
Yeah. We're going to get more. We're going to get Captain America 4.
Right.
Which is going to be interesting to see how they tell that story. But the spending time of what it means to be black in America is an important conversation. And they did it and wrapped up in this story of dealing with your own kind of agency, like trying to come to your terms to your own kind of who you are, while also carrying this moniker of Captain America in a country that has repeatedly done things to make those minorities not have a chance.
Right.
And so how do you become the symbol when that country doesn't care about you as a person or race?
And you're literally a symbol of the country.
Yeah. I think it was so well done, but again, because of everything that happened around it, and this was supposed to be the first, it was the most previous phase 2, phase 3 kind of feel of the MCU. Yeah. It was supposed to be the first thing that came out, was supposed to be the transition into phase 4. Because of the pandemic, they had changed things, and then WandaVision became the first thing that was out.
Yep.
And so it was a thing. You ever watched a movie and thought, like, this is just visually amazing, and I just love the way it looks, and the colors are amazing. Well, our friends over at Movie Palette have come up with these great pieces of art that you could put up on your wall to show your love of movies without really necessarily being overly dramatic about it. Think of a movie barcode kind of thing, where you can look at the colors and know what the movie is, but it's very, very subtle. If you know us, we are into Tron Legacy. The music and the lights and the color itself is just amazing. Just to give you an idea of what they have, go to moviepalette.com, find your own personal favorite movie, your movie color palette, and have it hang on your wall. At checkout, put in Pop Culture 15 to get 15% off. Thank you, Movie Palette, for sponsoring this video. Link is in the description down below. And don't forget, use Pop Culture 15 at checkout to get 15% off your order. Number 7 was Hawkeye.
Yep.
Loved the series. Loved the comedicness of it.
Yeah.
Kate Bishop is. We got Florence Pugh in it. We got Kate Bishop doing Kate Bishop just being weird. Haley Steinfeld is like, she's in the MCU. She's in Marvel now twice because she's Spider Gwen in
the
Spider-Verse.
voice of
And so I Christmas.
Christmas in New York, and we get a little bit of behind the scenes of Clint's secret family life, and it was good. There were just, I mean, they were all really good.
Yeah,
it's just
some got to us a lot better than others.
Yes,
that's a better way of it.
Yes.
Our number 6 on this list was She-Hulk: Attorney at Law.
Yes,
I love this show.
Yes,
I love the meta commentary that they went into it, and then watching the internet like do exactly what they just talked about in the episode
that they filmed a while ago.
Yeah,
they knew that you were gonna be that way, say that thing, whatever. And I went into the show like, really, did She-Hulk?
Yeah.
Meh. And by the end, I'm like, the show's amazing.
It's
amazing.
Again, playing with different genres, playing with different kind of storytelling, doing a half-hour legal drama comedy inside the MCU where she's breaking the fourth wall, and you're like, I don't understand. And then Kevin Feige's a freaking robot. It was a fun thing. But again, some of these others kind of touched us a little bit more in all the wrong ways. Number 5, and this is going to surprise some people, I probably would be higher on my list if it was just my list, is What If. Everyone told us What If doesn't matter.
Right.
So we get done watching What If, and we turn around and we go see Multiverse of Madness, and everything in What If mattered.
It all mattered.
It's
actually not... we left that movie. Was it that one, or was it into the
No Way Home?
No Way Home. That we left the movie theater going, What If doesn't matter?
Well,
huh?
I think it was Multiverse of Madness, because everybody was like, well, I don't understand what was going on. I just started screaming out, What If? If you watched What If, you understood everything that just happened. Yeah. You go watch What If. This show is so well done. The animation is so cool. The story they're telling is so cool. They're doing all of this stuff that you wanted as a Marvel comic book fan.
Yeah.
They did it in this show.
Yeah.
And it's so well done. And the animation is so cool. And it all connects. Each individual story connects to itself. And it connects to the bigger. Like, it made me so angry when people were like, it didn't matter. Fuck, shut up. Hey, want to add anything else?
No.
Okay. Number 4 is Moon Knight.
Yep.
Again, a character I was not connected to.
Yeah. We were like, eh.
I knew he was in the comics. I actually have a couple of comics because I just like the cover.
Yeah.
Of Moon Knight. Again, telling a very different story.
Yeah.
Dealing with identity dysfunction disorder. IDD.
Yes. IDD.
Just having that conversation, and Oscar Isaac is amazing, and just the Egyptian culture and the Egyptian gods.
Again, another like we talked about with Shang-Chi and Black Panther, exposing us to a culture that we may. I mean, I have a little more just because I've kind of studied some of that before, but just exposing everybody to a different culture was awesome.
Yeah, and Ethan Hawke, who for a long time didn't want to do big franchise stuff, got talked into this because Oscar called him and said, "You want to do this?" and he was a great villain.
Yeah.
Great villain.
Yep.
Our number 3 is Loki.
Yep. This one, like, I mean, it blew everybody away in what was going on, right? I mean, um, the uh, costuming and the
Set design.
set design and
Yeah.
the photography, cinematography and stuff was. Oh, I mean, it was fine, but it was the actual. Wait a minute,
Yeah.
and this was our easing the audience into the idea of the multiverse.
Yeah.
So that when we got to
What
multiverse,
when we got to What If and we got to Multiverse of Madness and we got to No Way Home,
right,
we had set up ourselves to kind of be like, okay, this is I get it.
right now we get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And Tom Hiddleston loves this character. He
Yeah.
will play it until he can't. And when they got done with Infinity War, he was on the black. He was on the black carpet. I'm looking at my black carpet, so that's what he was on the red carpet at Infinity War. And somebody asked him, like, "How does it feel to not be able to play this? This is your last time playing this character." And he was emotional about it.
Yeah.
And but they were already working on Loki in the background when that whole conversation was being had because they knew they were going to do this Disney Plus stuff, and so they needed it. And Loki is a really good character, but if you have to now do a setup and kind of tell the story of Loki in a different way, and they did it. They had him on his redemption arc very differently than the redemption arc he had through the Thor movies and through the Infinity Saga. And
Yeah.
it just I thought it was so well done.
And it shows the branches, that in the universe or whatever that can happen because of one little reset.
We got Alligator Loki.
Alligator Loki.
And we got introduced to who is going to be the big bad going forward
Yep.
in all of it. He was announced as He Who Remains, but it was Jonathan Majors, and it's Kang, and it's going to be amazing. Our number 2 is Miss Marvel.
Yep.
This show knocked us off of our socks.
Yep.
Off of our socks? Out of our socks. I did not expect this at all.
No. Again, we were like, who?
Yeah.
Miss Marvel, okay, and it kind of starts out a little teeny, little not in our demographic.
Yeah.
But again, getting, immersing us in a culture that we may not have been fully aware of. I mean, there were multiple times when things happened with the like her being Muslim and that culture that we were like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's,
Yep.
so you're learning something, you're getting immersed in and more used to that culture. Like I feel like I have a better appreciation for, what's the difference between someone who's Indian from India, someone who's from Pakistan, that whole
The whole
backstory,
conversation of
the partition,
like, yeah.
and then just her, like being being a fun teenager, being a good person. Like there's a lot of times when they make teenagers angsty, which teenagers can definitely be angsty, but um, she's a good kid,
Mhm.
but she does some stuff like, kind of hurts her dad's feelings, hurts her mom's feelings because she's a teenager,
Yeah.
and just all the feels.
Her parents are probably some of my favorite parents we've gotten in any kind of superhero genre kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
good parents trying to do the right thing for the kid, also learning that they got to let their kid kind of go
Yeah.
and kind of be their own person, and like it just it like every week after each episode when we did our reviews, I'm like the first couple, like we're gonna stick with it, but and then like each week I fell in love with the show more and more and
Yep.
more and more.
Yep.
And by the end, I'm like, that was it. I'm like, more.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel this week, which was fine because was it Kenobi or something was going on at the same, or yeah, Kenobi was going on at the same
Yeah.
time. So we're trying to do both reviews of the
Yeah.
those late nights. Our number 1, if you're doing math, is WandaVision. And
WandaVision,
if you
WandaVision.
haven't been paying attention to our talking about it, this ended up being the first thing for Phase 4. It was an utter and complete departure from anything that had happened inside the MCU,
Yep.
and it,
Which some people didn't like.
which some people didn't like. And I had multiple conversations with guys at my comic book shop, like they just did not like the sitcom of the week feel to it, and we did.
Yep.
Now I'm a little bit older than some of the guys at my comic book shop, so I remember watching the Dick Van Dyke Show. I remember watching, um, you know,
I Dream of
I
Jeannie,
Junior Jamie or Happy
Brady
Days
Bunch.
or Leave It to Beaver, um, and so I understood what the aesthetic was that they were trying to set up, but it was like episode 3 that I was like, oh,
Yeah.
and when they started when when the world started to kind of expand outside of the sitcom kind of feel, you have it, it just it it blew everybody's mind.
Yeah.
To this day, I think about the show,
I do too.
and we've watched it 4 times,
Yeah.
5 times.
I would watch it again right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now. We have I the other day I was like, we have WandaVision shirts. He just bought the 50s WandaVision pops. We have I have WandaVision art on my wall in my room. We have a sticker, and it's all been
I
kind of
bought
subconsciously. We've
yeah,
just bought this
I bought
stuff.
Vision the Scarlet Witch #1, or Scarlet Witch Vision #1. That's kind of
Comic
the
book.
big
Yeah.
the basis of this show,
Yeah.
or at least the foundation of this show, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
And I think that, like, for me, the the first one being kind of a Dick Van Dyke Show feel, um, drew me in for the member berries, right? Kind of the feeling of when you watch these shows for the first time and where you were, and I was a kid, so it gives you that kind of nostalgia feel, right? But then there's a little bit of a twist in there that you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then, so each show did that for me, like kind of where I was at in my life when those were going on and kind of gave you that nostalgia. But like you said, as you moved forward, kind of to the third episode, things are really starting to be noticeably different, and you then start to get introduced to like the outside world. This is, like what's going on, which after the first couple episodes, you're like, okay, the nostalgia, the member berry kind of thing is cool, but where are we going with this? And so they got into it, and then you're like, oh, I mean, we were
All of that mattered.
wildly speculating about who was what and what was going on, and it was so much fun.
This is the show that created several YouTube channels of breaking down what they were seeing in each episode, and the the set designs and kind of the idea of laying Easter eggs and maybe false clues of what was going on, and just
After the pandemic, it was this nice, this fun thing
yeah,
to
have every week to look forward to.
yeah,
Yeah,
and to speculate about and to pick
this
apart. And
this also was one of the first ones that was like, okay, we're going to do it week to week, and you're like, what? And you're like,
yeah,
no.
feels like it was just the right thing at the right time for for a lot of us.
And w- uh, kind of a weird subject. It's interesting for us personally dealing with grief and the concept of how do you deal with your grief? Where do you direct it? What do you do? How do you deal with it? We talked about this earlier with Black Widow, or with Wakanda Forever. That was the end cap to the conversation of what Phase 5 or Phase 4 was, with the conversation of grief, and this was
Yeah.
the beginning
Yeah.
of that conversation
Yeah.
of grief.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that they intentionally meant it to happen that way, but they went with it. They went
Right.
with that kind of
Right. It totally worked.
because Captain America: Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first one to kind of ease everybody into what we're going to start doing in Phase Four.
Right.
And like we talked about earlier, they had to change everything. So WandaVision was the first one, and that show directly dealt with Wanda's grief of losing Vision, and then manifesting children into her universe, and then having those children be taken from her.
Right.
And that whole thing really hit us a lot harder than I think some other people that didn't have it.
Yeah.
And I is that a good thing, bad thing? Your mileage may vary.
Right.
And that's fine. But for what this show did for the MCU, the as different we can't get to What If without this show being off
Right.
the rails different.
Right.
We can't get to the multiverse without kind of this show showing that she created her own multiverse within the town.
And it, like, I feel the way I feel about multiverse and Wanda specifically in, otherwise the whole conversation about vilifying a woman would have been potentially more justified because she's just angry and
Right.
powerful.
Right.
And but like you feel you're right there going through it with her
Yeah.
after the show,
Yeah.
right? Because there's these kids, and it's all in these member berries of these show types that you remember, and so there's just all these emotions wrapped, not just children, but all these other emotions wrapped up in it. To when you get to multiverse, you're like, you don't hate her, you feel bad, you feel
Yeah.
sorry for her.
Yeah. You actually she is the villain of the stories. She's the villain of WandaVision. She's the villain of Multiverse of Madness, but it's a villain that you actually feel for, you have an emotional connection to,
Yeah.
like you did with Killmonger, like you
Right.
did with Namor.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people I think missed the point when they talked about vilifying a woman or whatever. She's a complex person who chose to do something the wrong way. And because of that, she became the villain of her own story.
Right, which
And
happens to many, many people.
it happens to everybody. And
But she just happens to be the most powerful person in, like,
right.
anywhere.
Anywhere. And this wasn't even her final form. Like,
Right.
she doesn't become her final form until we get to Multiverse of Madness, and that's not even her final form.
Right. She will probably be back.
And she's going to be back, and no more mutants. I'm just saying. So that is our 100% no debates, no discussion list of Phase 4. Like we said, we did it a little bit differently. We did the movies and the TV shows separately. If we were going to rank everything, WandaVision's still going to be first on our list.
It is. I just feel like the shows. I overwrote him. In case you didn't get that in the beginning. The shows are so much different. They're the ground laying, the world building, so that we can go to these movies and understand what's going on.
Yeah, and that's a conversation that I've had a lot about with the Star Wars universe. Is the books and the TV shows and the animation um, are the world building and the concept building and all that stuff that you get to. So when you get to the movies, you're like, I understand this. I understand what they're
Right.
trying to do. I understand what they're trying to tell. And so even Kevin Feige has said that he has set up the MCU kind of with the same kind of general idea of
Yep.
of what Lucasfilm did with Star Wars, and that's the kind of storytelling I like.
Mhm.
Is that you're getting multiple layers and multiple outlets to where you can watch these stories, read these stories, listen to these stories, that kind of thing.
Yep.
That doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody has the time to kind of do that deep dive. So if your conversation is, I didn't like this because I didn't have the time to spend working on, getting all this information, I totally get that. But if you come to me and sit there and say, how dare you put Black Eternals above Wakanda Forever, are just our enjoyment of it was one way more than the other, and that's and I think that's more of what the conversation needs to be about Phase 4. I'm kind of making a joke about this is the definitive list because everybody's on the internet right now going, this is the definitive list, and I'm like, no,
For you.
for you. And our conversation, like our conversation about the grief with WandaVision, is way more important to us than our representation of, let's say, seeing somebody of like us on the TV. Like now that I hope you understand what I'm trying to say there. We're not we're middle class white people, and but if you're a Muslim and you saw Kamala on screen for the first, you see yourself on the TV for the first time, you're going to be emotionally connected to that a lot more than we are going to be
Absolutely.
for something else.
Absolutely.
And I think that conversation is what that's the conversation that we need to be having. Then this is the definitive all the way. This is the way you have to look at it because your like I said, your mileage may vary. So,
Right. Your experiences are different.
yep. And so that is our phase 4. We're ready for phase 5 with Ant-Man and Quantumania. They're gonna kill Scott Lang. So let us know what you thought of our list in the comments down below. Please be nice. We're willing to have a nice conversation. You may have a different view, and that's cool. Just be
Absolutely.
nice. There's a requirement around here, actually. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links in the description down below. Happy New Year, cult members! We got new stuff coming in 2020. What is it? What's time?
2023.
27, whatever.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. And like I said, follow us on all of those other stuff. And until next time, Happy New Year. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good night now.